Another of the tools, this is a gentleman by the name of Werner Winger, who is a retired maths professor, actually, and a futurist. And he wrote a very influential book. He's sometimes called the father of augmented reality, which we've been hearing about earlier on. He wrote a book called Rainbow's End a few years ago, which was a vision of the near future and how we'll be using technology. And we will be using it, according to him, and he's very knowledgeable about this sort of thing, either in the form of glasses or contact lenses, which we'll wear. We'll essentially be able to see three views of the world. We'll be able to see the digital world if we want to see it, whenever we want to look at our kind of computer type interface. We'll be able to see an augmented reality view of the thing, so we'll be able to look around and actually see people's names perhaps floating around above them, so we don't need to try and remember all that sort of stuff anymore. And we'll be able to see the real world as well, if you were acquainted and old-fashioned enough to want to see that without the augmented reality element. So again, these tools are coming and will be with us within the next 3 to 5 years. I know Steve pinched this slide earlier on, and one of the problems with coming up with a good idea for an illustration of the things is that, particularly when you speak last at a conference, is that people have often pinched your slides, and this is what happened. Yeah. Thank you, Steve. I think you did credit me. But what I normally say here is, when I started to talk about this concept, was the very first TV ad of all time, and how it was really influenced by what came before it, which in this case is radio and print. And I wanted to draw a comparison between the sort of 70-odd years we got from this Bullover ad back in the 40s through to current day. It took 70 years to get to that pinnacle of sort of the 30-second TV ad. So I thought we'd look at how quickly mobile is evolving as a point of comparison. So when I first got involved in, that's what my first promotions were looking like in about 2000, in a company called Zagme, which sent promotional, location-based promotional messages out to people in Lakeside and Bluewater shopping malls. It was text message. It was sort of pretty boring. It worked up to a point, but it was very sort of early stage, and that was our boulevard moment, where we were sort of taking what had worked in previous environments and tried to imply what they work today. It didn't really, to be honest, get marketeers particularly excited, because although text messaging even in 2000 was fairly ubiquitous, marketers didn't really relate to it as a creative medium, whatever that might mean. It was successful in many respects, but it wasn't necessarily very exciting. Technology, when it gets going, it tends to start fairly slowly. So what came next is colour text messages, otherwise known as MMS. Still not terribly exciting. And then when AdMob, which was which we started in 2006, came on board, the first thing we did was basically text banners. Those are used a lot today. They're still very, very successful, very, very effective. But again, particularly with the big above-the-line agencies, they weren't very excited about that as a medium. They work very well, but you're not going to win awards for writing a text message at the end of the day, whether it be delivered over SMS or on the web. Where it started to get more interesting was banners, which happened about a year later. And then we can see how quickly it started to go from there. The big breakthrough, obviously, was the iPhone a few years later, when suddenly creative directors did have iPhones, and they did recognise that they were quite sexy and cool and stuff, and we could start doing rich media. That followed very quickly up with video, where you could actually show videos on people's phones, and again, suddenly it was getting some interest. About that time, this would be about 2009, we ran our first $1 million advertising campaign for Land Rover out in the US, and again, that was sort of like a critical moment in the industry, where suddenly we weren't talking about a 5,000 campaign test here or there, and we were talking about real money. What's happening next? Well, location. Funny enough, this is where I started sort of 10 years ago, trying to do location-based promotions, which obviously I was far too ahead of my time in that respect. But they are coming back now, and you can run geolocated promotions. We've got augmented reality, which I won't say too much about, other than, because it's been said already. But I think where the golden age, if you like, of augmented reality will happen is when we have those sort of little contact lenses or glasses around which we can actually see everything in real time and how it's happening. I mean, there's some really interesting things happening in AR today, and I'm not belittling it, but I think that where it will really start taking off is when you can see it in your everyday life without going to look for it. And as I say, I think the big thing, particularly for the fast-moving consumer goods industry, is when you can actually send a coupon to somebody's phone and they can redeem it. Because in the old days we used to talk about advertising loading the gun and promotional marketing pulling the trigger. Well, we can do that now through mobile on its own, which is quite unique for that medium. So basically, that's what an original ad looked like, and this is much more about what a contemporary ad might look like today for Reebok. You can see people can scroll down over the banners, they can have a look, they can get more information, and they can play videos actually on their iPhones or Android devices, smartphones generally. I normally show a little video here, but we haven't been able to get that thing working here, so that's what it would have looked like. So really, one of the definitions of marketing, there's lots of different definitions of marketing, as we all know, is there's three phases of it. There's customer acquisition, going out and winning the clients in the first place. There's customer retention, how you deal with customers once you've got them. And there's brand building, about how you enhance the brand. And most media are quite good at one or the other of doing those things. Like TV is a great medium for customer acquisition. It's pretty bad at customer retention because it can't distinguish whether the person's watching it is a customer or not. Mobile can do all those things, and therefore it's a unique medium from that perspective, as well as all the other things which people talk about in terms of being personal and all the rest of it. So in terms of a marriage between the advertising industry and the promotional marketing industry, above the line, below the line, it all comes together. And I think one of the big opportunities for the promotional marketing industry generally is this going to be our medium, or is that going to be left to the digital and the above the line guys? I think historically we've always been better at getting people to do stuff, because that's what we do as an industry, and therefore it should be something which the promotional marketing industry should be getting involved with on an active basis. I think this might have been another slide, but it didn't work. So what it was going to show was an example of traditional media and mobile marketing as a way of driving people to install with vouchers. We've also got this phenomenon of what can we do in store with people? Well, already 10% of people are using their handsets to look up prices in store, which is, if you're a retailer, is a pretty scary statistic, bearing in mind we're at the beginning of that. And in fact, that goes up to 30% if you earn over $70,000 for some reason. So the more you earn, the more likely you are to do in-store price comparison. And that's something retailers have never had to really worry about before. Yeah, we've had for the last few years about people doing pre-store visit price checking, but now they're actually doing it in store and using it to either haggle the retailer down or buy online. So that's something we're going to see more and more of. And one of the big opportunities here is actually looking at loyalty as a mobile delivered mechanic. Again, this isn't something many people are doing again, but again, it's very much at the heart of promotional marketing, how you deliver loyalty, and you can do it actually via the mobile. And then there's m-commerce, actually using your mobile to order goods and services, which again is sort of been ignored by the promotional marketing industry in many respects. So that's a kind of brief look at where we're going as an industry.